friends and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be sewing the projects that came in our 2025 Jolly box that looks like this. Now, we received this box back in November. The pattern was so cute that I wanted to sew it within this year and I don't want it to go over next year. This is what our pattern looks like this year for 2025. This is the mistletoe moment and this pattern is 52 by 56. What I'm going to do in this video is kind of work you through an overview of my process of sewing it. And I want to do all the project in one video because you, just like me, are probably out doing Christmas stuff, family stuff, work stuff, get-togethers, and all kinds of volunteering things that comes with the holiday season. So what I'm going to do in this video is just kind of go over the blocks. There are 3 blocks total that makes up the entire quilt. What I'm going to do is just kind of show you my process of sewing each block, and then you will see what they look like, and I'll put it together, quilted, and they will be done. Let me show you what my fabric looks like. We received this 12 fat quarters. This is the background. This is the 108 backing that I'm going to use. And then, so I have everything I need. What I'm gonna do now is go to my sewing machine, start sewing the blocks, put it together, and then finish quilting. This is going to be my last project of 2025. I'm squeezing this in by the hair of my chin and chin chin. And literally, I'm not kidding, during the holiday. We're going to make it one video. So that way, in case you want to make this quilt for next Christmas, which will be 2026, you will have this video as reference or just as an entertainment or just to give you like, you know, a point or two of how to sew it. Okay. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and start sewing the blocks. We have 3 blocks total within our pattern. We're sewing the tree, the gift boxes, and the house. That's all we're doing. And then we're going to do the inner border and the outer border. And then we're done. That's our quilt right there. So let's go ahead, go to our sewing machine and make this quilt. So these are all my pieces here, nice and cut out. This is what we're sewing. I'm going to make this in-season holiday quilt, Christmas quilt. I just couldn't pass it up. It's just so pretty and so cute, and I just wanted to get it sewn. The designer for this quilt is Beverly McCullough for Riley Blake, and the quilt is going to be 52 by 56. You can get creative and add a little bit of a border or, you know, make it a little bigger if you want to. Since there are quite a bit of fabric left, you can add on to the bottom, maybe some stars if you want to, but I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to sew this quilt the way the pattern is written. And again, these are all my pieces cut out from A all the way to Z, and then AA all the way to R. I'm going to step back one more time. This is taking up my entire table. This is what it looks like, all nice and cut out. I meticulously have all of my pieces organized here so that way I don't get confused. This is the back side of my sewing table. This is my little cutting table right here in front of my sewing table that I use all the time. I just kind of lay everything out so when I'm ready to sew, I'll just flip it back to my table, which is over here, right in front of it, and I would just sew. I'm going to show you what my blocks look like and try to make this as fast as possible. So let's go. For this tree over here, you're going to make 2 that looks just like this, right? And then you're going to make 2 presents that look a little different. I just pieced the segment. I have not sewn all of it together. So what I'm going to do now is piece it together, put my sashings on, and then show you what it looks like. I want to talk about the housing real quick. The housing, like we're moving, right? We need to make 2 of the houses that looks just like this. One of the house will have the fabric that has the little jingle bells on it. And then the other house will have the house with the holly. I think this is a holly and some flowers on it. So I was trying to sew them. I did this one somewhat right, and I missed this right here. I sewed the holly on it. And then for this part, I sewed it all right here, correct. And then on the bottom right here, I sewed the fabric with the holly. I did not realize until the entire house is sewn and put together because I wanted to talk to y'all about it. It's straightforward sewing, but you're going to cut, let me just talk about these real quick. You're going to cut this and this, and you're cutting from 2 different fabrics, okay? You're going to cut the same from here, the same from here to make 2 houses. You're going to cut one fabric type for this right here. You're going to cut a different fabric type for this one. You're gonna cut 2 of each, but they're gonna be different. I don't know what I was thinking. You know, it happens, and I'm not gonna redo it. But I just want to call out my frustration and my mistake, whatever I want to call it. I don't know. We're going to make 2 that looks like this. We're going to make a present, and then we're going to make 2 houses. The only thing here is the exact same house, but you're using 2 different fabrics, and then using 2 different fabric for the roof right here. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and piece these together, and we will put the sashings on. And this is what my sashing looks like. I've already have them all nice and cut out. I'm just gonna do that, and then we will be done with this quilt. I'm gonna try to have it quilted and done so that way it won't be on the bucket list for 2026. Okay, so once we've had our tree like this, now don't forget the second flying geese is going to have a piece on this side and a piece over on this side. And I have sewn mine ahead of time. The next step is to sew this together. I've sewn this. I'm gonna go ahead and finger press it open because there are a lot of bulk here to be met. So I guess it makes sense to press open, right? So that's kind of what I'm going to do. Bring my iron and just press open. And I'm just gonna reinforce these guys here as well. Okay. I'm just pressing it open. Our next step here is to sew our rectangle pieces, and we're going to sew it onto the side. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to come to the other side and sew. I'm going to match to make sure I have the right length, and I'm going to go ahead and sew. I'm not going to pin because this top piece of fabric, it's very light, and I can see that I'm not sewing over my points. All right, what we're going to do here is press away from our points. And then I'm going to bring my iron and I'm going to press one side at a time. Up and down motion, and not going like this, because if you go like this, you can stretch the one on this side. What I typically do, I just press up and down on my seam. I don't go this way. All right, so that is done. We're going to bring it back and we're going to assemble it like this and like that. So this is what it's going to look like right now. The next step is to just sew everything together. I'm going to start from the top so I don't confuse myself. I'm going to sew on the next piece, making sure that it matches like that. I'm just going to press with my finger, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew the next piece. And when I'm done with everything, and then I will press with an iron. Our next step is to sew this piece on here and just go for it. I'm just going to finger press and then sew my next piece on. So now we're going to sew on our tree trunk. And here we go. All right, so I'm just going to press going downward. I'm not pressing open on this part. I'm just pressing going downward. And I'm pressing along my seam line so I don't stretch it out. This part, I did have to visit Jack the Ripper because I sewed 2 of this together at the same time because they're all the same length. So I just got a little ahead of myself, but that's okay. It's such an easy sew. This is what it looks like. This is the tree, one of the tree. You're going to need to make 2 that looks just like this. So the next thing we are going to make is going to be the stacked up gift boxes. That's what we're going to make now. This is what our gift boxes is going to look like. I'm going to point something out that I did. This little candy cane right here, I cut my fabric going this way, but I think it's supposed to be going up like this. Since I've already cut my candy cane going sideways, I want it to be consistent. I didn't want to have the candy cane going this way and then this one is going that way. I just went on ahead and remain consistent with the entire gift box. I just want to point that out. So when you cut your fabric, if you're going to make this, you're going to cut your candy cane fabric up going this way. So your candy cane can be standing like this. But I didn't. Like I said, I'm just trying to get this project done. and close this chapter for the year 2025. So we're going to get this done and we're going to see what it looks like at the end. It's going to be okay. By the time it's quilted and sewn, it's not going to matter which way the candy cane is going. I just like to point out if I've done something that is not in a pattern that I did on my own or made mistake, I will let you know, because that is what happened when you're making things. And that's just what it is. And so for this part, I'm just going to make sure that I sew the right thing on. I'm going to sew on this star part. All right, so I'm just going to press away from where my seams are. And then this last part is going to go on. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is finger press away from my star point, and then I will bring my iron and then I will press with heat. For this gift boxes, we need to make two that are similar but a little different. This is what the second one is going to look like right here. This is the one with the star, and then this one just has a stacked up just gift boxes. These are both that we need to make, and these are the tree blocks that we need to make right here. And then last but not least, we are going to make two houses that look like this. They are exact same, but they have different fabric. So for this one, we're going to use holly. And then for this one, we're going to use the Jingle Bell fabric. All in all, it's going to be a total of 3 different blocks, but we're going to make each block twice for this quilt. Our next step now is to assemble the quilt. It is a fast sewing kind of little quilt and little holiday project. Once you've cut, I think the hardest thing for this quilt is cutting it, because it was all the alphabet and then some. Once you've got the cutting straight, you're good. The next step for us to complete is to piece our tree, the sashing, the gift boxes, and the house all together. So that's going to be your top row for this quilt. And I'm going to do that first, and then we're going to come back and we're going to sew our bottom row. Then we would join it with our sashing in the middle. That is all we're doing for this quilt. I'm just going to press towards the light like that. And then when I'm finished, I will go ahead and use heat. My fabric are starch. Sometimes the heat can still cause the fabric to stretch. So I try not to press a lot while I'm sewing my pieces together. So our next step is to bring our house block and then sew it. These are some big blocks. Actually, the house, if you don't want to make the quilt, you can kind of make the house as a wall hanging and then just have it for Christmas on the wall and be done. This is what the top piece is going to look like. If you don't want to make the entire quilt, this is good enough as a table runner. Put borders around it and then bind it. There you go. You have your whole thing done. This is another option if you don't want to make the quilt. So what I'm going to do with this piece, since it is done, I'm going to put it aside, okay? And then we're going to sew our bottom piece. So the next thing we're going to do with this one is we're going to bring our boxes of gifts, and then we're going to bring our tree just like this. We are going to take our sashing. We're going to put it like this on this side. So the sashing is going to the far right versus the first one that had the sashing on the left side. The next thing I'm going to do is just sew this together with no sashing. And then on this one, we're going to put sashing on the right. And then we're going to sew our tree on to the rest. I'm just finger pressing it away from the block that has points. What I'm going to do now is press it on my big ironing board, which is a little too big for me to bring here. So I'm just going to step away and press. Okay, now we're going to sew on the middle sashing. And for this part, I'm going to put my sashing on the bottom, and I'm going to sew my actual quilt with my seam on the top. So that way I can see which way they're laying and I don't sew my seam going this way or that way. It gives me an assurance to be able to see what I'm sewing. And a lot of time you can also pin and not worry about it, but this is such a small quilt, it really doesn't matter. Now I have the top piece, I have the middle sashing right here, and I'm going to put the bottom piece on, which is our second row of block. For this part, I am going to pin because I want them to lay on top of each other. I'm just gonna lay it on top like that, and I'm just going to pin. Now, if you are a beginner trying to sew this, this is taking me a weekend to sew and to have all the pieces cut and everything. It may take you a little bit, but I'm telling you that this quilt is very attainable. You can do this, and all you have to do is take your time. You may not be able to sew it during the season. It may be a 2026 project for you, but if you've been quilting for a while and you want to make this quilt, it is completely doable on a probably like 2 evenings or so. And that's kind of what I'm doing. Once you have it cut and ready to go, it's just one of the easiest sew I've had in a while. You're sewing in the season. And for this part, I'm just going to pin. I pin when necessary. And then I'm just, so, and one of the reasons why I'm pinning is just so I want to make sure that my beginning and the end matches. I don't have an overage fabric because sometimes your feed dog pulls differently than you want it to. And so by me pinning when necessary helps alleviate that issue. This is what my quilt is looking like right now. My next step is to sew on the inner border, and then I'm going to sew the outer border, and then we will be done with this quilt. So this is our quilt on done and quilted. So what I did with the quilting is just kind of did an overall, not like meandering, just kind of like a scroll, and then a scroll all the way around. This is what I put on the back. I went on ahead and used the 108 that came in the collection. That's what my backing looks like. The binding fabric was part of the collection as well, which is the green kind of like plaid. So that's kind of what I did. This quilt is done for 2025. This is the tree skirt that came in the box as well. This is what it looks like. I'm gonna just come up closer real quick and show you. I did an overall scroll quilting on this, and I did it on my machine. So that is what this looks like. I said I wasn't going to use it as a tree skirt, and I'm not. I'm not going to cut a hole in the middle and use it as a tree skirt. What I am going to do, if I do decide to use it as a tree skirt, is put my tree right here in the middle, and then get those kind of like those tree skirt that's kind of like a circle around the tree and put it on it, and this will still be on the floor. That gives me the option to use it as a tree skirt or as a table topper. So I do have that option, and that is why I opted not to cut a hole in the middle of this quilt. I just thought it was too pretty for me to cut a hole in it. That's just an idea for you. If that's what you want to do, you can totally do that. So the binding is a Bonnie and Camille line from Shine On. That's what I ended up using, and I think it matches really nicely. This is a Riley Blake, and you see how it goes well together with the fabric, because you don't have to always have to box yourself into a collection or a designer or a brand. You can mix and match. Look at the backing. The backing is Lizzie House. The collection is Tiny Christmas. That's what I ended up using. So with this, I also made the stocking that came on the corner of the tree skirt. So this is what they look like. So I also put the binding on it. So it's not my best that I've done. So this is the quilting on this guy right here. And this is the quilting on this guy right here. Not the best, but it's done. And that's all that matters. So that is already ready for 2026. Just like that, we are done with all the quilting project for 2025. I have completed the Jolly Box, and I have completed the tree skirt right here, and also the stockings. All 3 projects are completed, quilted, and done. The only thing I have not done yet, and I need to be transparent with y'all, I have not put a label on. I get my labels from Sweetwater. I would take one of the Christmas label and put it on the back somewhere right here, and I'll just sew it to the corner. It doesn't bother me if I have a sewing line on here, and I'll do the same thing with this guy right here. So this is what they look like, okay? And this is what this looks like. It's okay to give yourself some grace. Mine is not perfect. You always give yourself some grace when you are making projects. Like if it bothers you, you can go ahead and rip it out and change it. But if it doesn't, honestly, it is your quilt. You do whatever you want. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing whatever I want. I'm just sharing it with you guys that sometimes you cannot be so hard on yourself and making things perfect all the time. Yes, if I made a mistake, if it bothers me, I change it. So excuse me for the rant. That is all I have here. And thank you so much for joining me in my sewing room today. I hope this video have encouraged and inspired you to get your project done. I hope to see you all here next year at Kate's Crafting Nest. Don't forget to subscribe down below, and I would love to see you in my next video for 2026. Bye.